Good afternoon, guys, and happy Thursday to all of your sunshiny faces. So guys, I should have a Nizi Caputo's haul for you guys tomorrow. I did end up finishing that list. It's so weird. I started off Monday like so good. I was like, oh yeah, like I got everything, you know, like done as far as like editing and uploading, and did dishes and laundry and like all that kind of stuff. Like, you know, just got back kind of on track like I felt like after last week. And then Tuesday we ended up going to my aunt's house, got all those pictures, and now I've been organizing them for the last like 3 days, and I have still been getting to things, but not as much as like, because I've been you know, again, spending more of my time trying to get those pictures done. So like today though, I did do my grocery list, but I didn't finish them completely. I still have to like kind of finalize jewels, and then like, but I can probably do that tomorrow during the day, and then I can get back to more picture organizing tomorrow. Which I told you guys yesterday how like I just had a tiny little stack of pictures that were left that I needed to have like sorted, and then once they were sorted, because I mean like all of the pictures that my aunt ended up giving me, they were all mixed in, and like there were like really old pictures mixed in with like modern day pictures, and so like again too, some of the ones we have probably date back to like the 30s, so I have a range from then up until, like I said, pretty much, you know, a handful of years ago. I think were probably the last ones my aunt had that were actually like, you know, like physical pictures that weren't like digitalized or anything like that. So I have a large range of photos to organize, and so the thing that I just kind of wanted to do was sort everything kind of by like grouping a little bit first, just kind of like sorting them. So I tried to do anything that was like really old, like black and white photos for the most part. Those ones I wanted to keep, you know, like start like, you know, kind of make piles. That was one of the piles. Then another one was kind of anything, which I realized I could have actually probably separated them out a little bit better, but I did anything from like pretty much the points that, again too, because it's my aunt and uncle's pictures, so it's pretty much like I tried to use like them as kind of like the sorting point and like their, you know, points in their life. So kind of like once their kids, like my aunt and uncle, who technically I guess they're like my, I don't know what they would be, like first cousins, second cousins, something like that. You know, like genealogy wise, which is funny. I love genealogy so much. I still to this day do not really understand like how that works. Like they're like your fourth cousin twice removed, and like, yeah, I don't know. They're my aunt and uncle. I call them my aunt and uncle. My mom was super close to them. They're almost like her siblings. So they're my aunt and uncle, like her kids. So while I say like my aunt and uncle, and then I say like my aunt and uncle again, it's confusing. It's my grandma's sister whose photos I'm organizing, but then again too, it's like her kids are also my aunt and uncle as well. So again, it sometimes can get a little confusing. Kind of like anything after their wedding and like stuff where like my aunt and uncle, like I said, like her kids, any photos like when they would have been like around, like those kind of photos, which for the most part were kind of anything that wasn't really black and white. I don't think that there were almost any, because like even my grandma's wedding photos, which my aunt was in her wedding, like she was a couple of years old, I think that she was like the flower girl, those photos were colorized for my grandma's wedding. I think though my aunt and uncle's photos when they got married, I think theirs might have been in black and white. I don't actually know, because then I know my other aunt, who's my great grandma's sister's daughter, she is again another aunt, but I don't know, like she'd be like my aunt twice removed, or she's still technically just an aunt. I don't know. It's confusing, but her photos, I also know too, my aunt has a couple of those, and they were not, because she was in her wedding, so that's why she has a handful of those photos. Those ones were in black and white as well. So I think my grandma's wedding might have actually been one of the first weddings that was actually like in color. But I kept actually all of the wedding photos from like everybody's wedding, so different aunts and family members and stuff like that, like those were all like separated, and I kept those like all wedding photos kind of in a thing, but I'm gonna sort through those as well and try and do like everybody's wedding photos separated, because there were a couple other ones too that like my grandma wasn't in them, so like I've never seen them, but it looked like my aunts might have been in it, and like, so I don't know like whose family it is, but it's also weird too because like, again, thinking about it, it's like I'm organizing my aunt and uncle's photos. My uncle, who's not my side of the family, I don't know, like I know actually a lot of them because they've always been really close. Like again too, my aunt would throw a party, they would all be there, like that kind of stuff. It's the same way too with my other aunt. So her daughter, her husband's side of the family, I've always been really close with. Like every single Easter she would throw a Easter party, and it would be with both sides of the family. So like I know like my like really extended family very well as also, you know, like I said, we've just done things together. Like my cousin's birthday, my aunt would throw, and you know, again to my like almost like extended cousins who aren't really my cousins would be there. Like it's my cousin. But my mom was also really close with like that side of the family. I told you guys too how like there was like a family reunion a couple of years ago, or like a family picnic kind of thing at like one of the aunt's houses, who again too, it's kind of just my aunt a little bit, I guess, as well. Like I said, even though it's like my uncle's side of the family, but like we ended up going to that. So like again too, I actually can pick out a lot of them in the photos, and I know like again too, I'm like that kind of looks like my uncle, it's probably his side of the family. But there could also have been like weddings and stuff like that, like I said, like that they stood up in, possibly that was like on that side that I didn't see or didn't, you know, like don't know. And that's why like again, a lot of the pictures that I've seen are like ones that where my grandma has also photos of, or I've seen photos of. Again too, like I don't know that my aunt, so my great grandma's sister's daughter, I've seen pictures of her wedding, but I don't know, I actually like, I might have just like been at her house or something like that. Like I saw the photo, but like I never really like saw like the bridal party photos, or you know, like that kind of stuff. So it might have just been like her and like, you know, again my uncle like together on their wedding, like instead of like the whole like bridal party and stuff like that. But my aunt has those photos, so I've now seen them. But anyways, getting back to the organizing or kind of sorting through the photos, I did separate out also like wedding photos as well, because again too, most of those were like also very like special and kind of like unique. Like they're on like very thick, like not cardstock, but like they're much like thicker photos. So like, you know, again, they kind of don't stack really well, and like being able to kind of like put them together and like, you know, again, I don't know how I'm necessarily going to like I'm trying to sort through and organize everything, but then I'm also going to try and figure out how I want to like store them to give them back to my aunt. So like, am I going to do them in like, you know, envelopes, or you know, like how do I want to like brown paper bags? Like I don't know, she did have some of them in those and like also in envelopes, so I might try and do that. I don't know. Sorting wise, I ended up, like I said, kind of, you know, again doing really old black and white photos, wedding photos. Then I tried to do anything between like when my aunt's kids were like, you know, like kids and up until like kind of like even like graduation and stuff like that. Basically anything before the grandkids were born, which again too, I could have definitely organize that out a little bit more. Like they're like little kid photos versus like, again, like teenage years and stuff like that more, because it's not that hard to tell from the photos kind of like what that age range is. But I just tried to do anything that was much more recent, like again to like when I know like grandkids would have been around, which is my cousin is the first like grandchild, so she's a little over a year older than me. Then it's me, then it's my other cousin who's like a year-ish or 9 months or something, or no, I think he's like 11 months younger than me. There's like 1 month, because I remember when I was little I was like, we're the same age for like 1 month until it's my birthday next month, because his birthday's in October and mine was in November. And I remember thinking that, so I think we're 11 months apart. And then me and my older cousin are like a little, I think a year and almost like a year and a half or something like that. And then there wasn't anybody else until Matthew, and then Jack, and then there was 4 other grandkids as well that actually is like a couple days older than, or no, like a month I think older than Jack, then Jack, and then there's 3 other grandkids. And too, it's just, we were all in, you know, again, 2 family parties and stuff like that. We're all in the photos, so it's like kind of like, you know, again, like me and my 2 cousins, especially too, like those early couple years before even Matthew was born, it was like, you know, that was like the main, everybody was taking pictures of us because we were the babies. So I tried to sort it out like by that. So like by that time came, then I tried to do like another stack of like our you know, photos, kind of like me and my cousins and stuff like that. So that was, like I said, kind of the like preliminary sorting through of photos. Now I'm trying to actually go through and like really detail and organize the photos. And one of the like keys to actually organizing them. So sometimes the photos, especially a lot of the newer ones, will have like the date printed on the bottom depending on what kind of camera you're using and stuff like that. But I've realized with a lot of the older photos, if you actually flip them over, a lot of times it will have numbers on the back and you can match those numbers up. Also too, the size of the photos matter as well. So like what I did was I organized everything by size of photo and then I flipped them over, looked on the back, and then tried to match up the numbers. And I found that honestly, I found huge stacks of photos that were all taken at the exact same time, because then again too, it was just like, oh, that was just, they're not like the date, but I don't know if they're like, and not like serial number, but like, you know, again, there's something, some specific number, like a print number or something like that on there, on the back of the photo. Not all of them have that. And again too, I found that sometimes they were weird. Sometimes even photos, they would have two different numbers, but they were definitely from the exact same time. Like I looked at it and I was like, okay, everybody's wearing the exact same thing in both photos and they're like exact same place. So I could tell they were the exact same ones, but for some reason they had like a different printed number on it. But it helps me kind of just get the idea of like, okay, these were like a clump of these photos taken from this time, and then to kind of sort it through a little bit better than that. And then when I get to that point, then I'm going to try and do it as best I can by like date, because again too, some of them do have dates on the back, like people wrote, you know, again, like the year that it was or whatever was going on, you know, again too, if it was like my aunt's, you know, 2nd birthday, I found pictures from that and I was like, okay, well, like this isn't going to be too difficult because I know what year she was born in, so her 2nd birthday is going to be easy to figure out. But again too, it's like some other things where it was just like, oh, them at the lake, like I don't know what, you know, when that was taken and stuff like that, but I can kind of tell based on like, okay, my aunt's age and like, was she walking yet and that kind of stuff. It's funny because I think my grandma has a lot more photos of her, but like there's a big chunk of obviously the photos that were like my great grandma and my aunt together. That was also right around wartime. Like my great grandpa went to World War II and was deployed, so my great grandma was taking a lot of photos with her and my aunt to like send to my great grandpa. So again too, there's a lot of like those, you know, there's a big stack of all those kind of photos as well, but there were a lot with my grandma in them too. And then like family photos as well, so it'd be like my great grandma with like my grandma and my aunt, and then like, you know, again, the whole family and stuff like that. So again, it was, you know, like I can piece together like, okay, if my grandma was in it, it was after the war. If it was before my grandma was, you know, born or around, then it was, you know, again, like during or prior to the war when my aunt was born. So again, I've been able to I've been piecing together things, and it'll make it a little bit easier. The only problem is that I realized I should not have went with the oldest photos first, because there is a lot of stuff that I feel like my mom could totally help me with and make things just a little bit easier on my part. Well, I can, and it's been kind of easy to actually identify people. I do have my entire genealogy list of everybody in the family, so if I do see like somebody has something listed on there like so-and-so, I'll be like, oh, I know who that is, like, you know. So I do know, but there are some pictures that don't have people's names written on the back, and I'm like, that looks like that person, but I don't know. And like also too, because like my great grandma, which is my great grandpa's mom, and then my great grandma's mom, my other great grandma, you know, like there's pictures with them, and there's some pictures with both of them in that, like a couple photos where they were actually together. I think it might have been on my great grandparents' wedding day, but like I was like, okay, I know who's who in those pictures, but then there's some other ones where I'm like, I think this might be, like, it might just say sometimes grandma, and I'm like, which grandma is it? You know, like if somebody wrote that on there, because it's probably either my grandma that wrote it, meaning her grandma, or my aunt wrote it, meaning her grandma. But then it looks like people came in and tried to like specify which last name it was. But again too, some of that stuff would just on occasion be easier if I had my mom sitting next to me to be like, who is this? You know, can you like help me figure this out? It's funny though, because I'm totally like able to, like, there's a lot of pictures that I can like identify as like being like, you know, this aunt, or, you know, again, this grandma, or like whatever it is. Like I'm, especially right now, I'm getting very good at piecing together people's identity, and like also like from like, you know, different age ranges as well. It's also funny too because it seems like, especially during that period of time, like again too, this is probably anywhere from the 30s to around the 50s, they had a lot of distinct hairstyles. So if I was like, oh, that's probably my great grandma, it was, because I would be able to like tell that it was her hairstyle, like compared to like the other, like she had not 8 siblings, I think. So again too, there's a lot of people that you have to know. It's not just like, oh, like, whereas my great grandpa only had 1 brother, so that's a little bit easier. But my great grandma had, like I said, I think she's one of 8 siblings. Or she's one of 8, I think. I'd have to go back and double check, or one of 10, I don't remember. Anyways, there was a lot, and so that makes things a little bit more difficult, especially too when you're talking about like, oh, this would be Aunt so-and-so, and I'm like, wait, who is that? Like, how are they related? But yeah, anyways, so, and then also too, it's also confusing because there was a aunt, so like my great grandma's sister, and then there was also another aunt, like their mom's sister, that had the same name. So sometimes when somebody's referring to them, they refer to them as the same aunt, and I'm like, okay, now I have to try and figure out, like, this was probably not her because it's a younger version, you know, of the person, and I probably wouldn't have had pictures from like the 1800s when it would have been that great aunt or something like that. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, they had the same name. So, and sometimes they wouldn't always like write down, like she also had a nickname, and so they would write down the nickname, I knew who that was. But if they wrote down the actual like name, then I'd be like, which one is it? Which aunt? You know, because they both had the same name. So it gets a little confusing. But like I said, that's the kind of stuff that I kind of wish I had my mom for, versus if I was going through photos of me and my cousins, I'd be like, oh, this is so easy to do. Like, you know, I probably have that part done already, but I'm taking a little bit longer, I think, with these older photos, because it is like a lot of like going back and forth and being like, who's this, who's that, you know, trying to figure out and piece things together and stuff like that. So anyways, like I said, I probably shouldn't have done that one tonight. Probably should have been the you know, like I said, more recent photos that I'd have a better time identifying. But anyways, we're, you know, like I said, it's definitely going to take me a while to like do everything as detailed as I want to, have everything done as best as possible, or as accurate as possible. Again too, I'm not going to get everything completely right, because there is some stuff that's like, I just can't identify these people, or like even to like the time when it would be and stuff like that. I want to be as accurate as possible. So like I said, I'm going to take my time to make sure I don't just try and rush through it and do it real quick. But again too, I've had other stuff going on, so like I only took a couple hours today doing it when I had the time. Kind of been like a back and forth kind of thing. I haven't just like sat there all day like 8 hours like doing it. I was like in there for like 3 hours, and I was in there for a little bit earlier, and so like I said, just kind of been going back and forth, and then getting like grocery lists done. And also too, because like I don't want to eat food near it, so I'm like I'm gonna make sure that I'm not eating anything in the living room, you know, because I do not want anything to get on them. Like I have them on like a card table, and like I'm not even letting the dogs in the living room because I don't want anything to happen to anything that's in there. So anyways, I'm going to take a shower now and get to bed, but I will see you guys all in tomorrow's vlog. If you guys did enjoy today's, make sure you guys give a big old thumbs up. If you guys are new, we'd love it if you'd subscribe, and I'll see you all very soon, shiny faces tomorrow. So bye guys.